Very Bad Wizards is a podcast with a philosopher, my dad, and a psychologist, Dave Pizarro, having an informal discussion about issues in science and ethics. Please note that the discussion contains bad words that I'm not allowed to say, and knowing my dad, some very inappropriate jokes.
Mister, you may conquer the air, but the birds will lose their wonder, and the clouds will smell of gasoline.
The great boss has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.
Welcome to Very Bad Wizards. I'm Tamler Summers from the University of Houston. Dave, your boy, Larry Summers, is the latest very public casualty in the Epstein email leaks when it was revealed that Summers emailed him in 2019 to get advice on how to have sex with one of his younger mentees. Congress just passed a resolution to release the Epstein files. I do need to ask you, for the good of the show, is your name going to be in there?
I think the mistake that Larry Summers made was not getting out ahead of this. And on that note, I certainly did not go on his jet.
You didn't know it was called Epstein Island.
Yeah, I didn't know it was his island.
Yeah.
It's so depressing to see that, I don't know what the right word is, the simpiness of Summers in those emails,
God.
trying to get advice for his pimp hand to be strong. You know?
It's so embarrassing. Meanwhile, he's in prison. It's so embarrassing.
Did you see that he is just back to teaching? And
he was, and then I think stopped. Yeah,
because I saw a student recording of him trying to be I just want to acknowledge that this stuff is going on, but I believe that you got to stick to your teaching duties, so we're going to cover the material. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the latest I heard was that lasted one class. But also Harvard is investigating him now. The Harvard Crimson has just been on a tear with him.
Oh.
It's so...
that he was the guy who was maybe these gender differences are due to genetics or whatever. Which, whatever, maybe some of that's true. That was him making that argument. That was just so too on the nose, man.
Yeah.
You know what? He needs to go to a Greek island. Disappear.
He needs to go to a Greek island. What island could he go to? Nice, because I don't want to talk about Larry Summers. I do want to talk about the Odyssey.
Yes.
So we are starting a 12-part series on the Odyssey, and we will do the first episode of that in the main segment for this episode. And then after that, all subsequent or most subsequent episodes will be just for our beloved Patreon supporters. This will go alongside of our Brothers Karamazov series, our Ambulators series on the show Deadwood, the Reintegrators with Paul Bloom.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
We're just putting out podcasts left and right. We're like Dick Wolf to the Law and Order guy, with all these fucking SVU. It's our SVU.
Yeah, Very Bad Wizards SVU. Yeah, but first, we're for an opening segment for those of you who are not patrons and may not continue with us, although we hope we do. We wanted to give you something kind of fun for the opening segment. So what do we got?
We are bringing back the blind rankings. Popular demand, kind of.
Yeah,
listen to our audience.
Yeah, no, they do. I'm kind of surprised a little bit. Not that I didn't think it was a good idea, but it, very rarely do opening segments get this much do another one, do this, do that. Yeah.
Totally. So this time we are doing a blind ranking of philosophers for Tamler. So I have a list of 10 people who I'm going to reveal to Tamler one at a time and ask him to rank them blind in whatever order he thinks would be fitting. Trying to anticipate what the total list will be, but of course, never quite knowing.
Yeah. So the idea for this, for me, is to get roughly the ranking that I would normally have. The problem is I don't know who you're going to throw at me.
That's right. And so we did movie directors, we did rappers, and we're doing now philosophers, which we may have started with.
I know.
Come to think.
It's also not, I don't think anyone even suggested it. Like I had that idea. It's like, why don't we do philosophers? That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so there are a couple of constraints for this list. These are, because of my own blind spots, these are Western philosophers from the Western tradition. And we decided that it would probably be best to keep these to philosophers who aren't quite modern, or at least not contemporary philosophers. So these are all people who published their first article before 1950, which is a completely arbitrary number, but nonetheless one that we used. So do you have your pen and paper in hand, Dr. Summers? Or is that the wrong thing to call you right now?
Definitely the wrong thing. I think it's good that we're doing historical philosophers because my ambivalence about, 20th century, especially analytic philosophers. And, so I like that we're going back a little further into the past.
It might actually be better for you to do like contemporary philosophers for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. That's what we should do.
Because or else it would just be scraping the bottom of the barrel for you.
Meanwhile, you'd be like, oh man, I knew Hillary Putnam was going to be there, but now he's at 5, but I wanted him at 3.
Where's Kripke? Is Kripke coming? All right. For our first name, I got to start strong, Tamler. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Ooh. By the way, I haven't really kind of thought about like what ranking I would put all these people, but I thought roughly, and Nietzsche I would definitely want to be high. I think Nietzsche is both a really like insightful philosopher with a ton of interesting insights into human psychology, human motivation. I think he has a kind of metaphysics that's pretty interesting, kind of a Heraclitan metaphysics that he tries to relate to his idea of like what it means to live a full life. And I also think he's an interesting writer in like the form. There's a lot of aphorisms in his work. I'd say it's mostly aphorisms. And every time we've read him, I think we've enjoyed it. And I've taught him, here and there a few times, but I'm no expert. This is a tough one because I don't know like what you're going to choose here. And I don't know like how much you're going to choose someone who I just couldn't give a shit about. But I'll put Nietzsche at, I'm debating between 3 or 4.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3.
Okay. Yeah, I knew he would be up there for you. But, this is kind of blind for me, too, because we don't talk about these philosophers in this way. We enjoy them all. But in making this list, I was really having to think about whether we've talked about them, what you think about them, whether I know that you've read some of their work, which I think kind of matters, but maybe not, as we'll see.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to assign him in my next grad seminar on the self. I think he's got a lot of interesting ideas about like how the self is constituted and what it is. And so I'm happy with Nietzsche at 3. It could come back to haunt me if you just pick only guys and women.
Yeah. For this pre-1950 philosopher women, giants. Okay, 3 for Friedrich Nietzsche. Second on my list, René Descartes. See, this is one, let me just tell you my thinking. I wasn't sure like how much influence matters to you when you're making these and how much it's you love them.
That's a good distinction. Because I think with Nietzsche, it was definitely that I like him, although I think he's had a big influence on a lot of 20th century people that I like. But that's not how I was thinking about it. For Descartes, though, the influence on the subsequent history of Western philosophy in terms of just defining how we were going to discuss these debates, defining the methodology that we were going to use, if not defining it, pretty much setting the template for what came after him. I think you don't have Spinoza probably writing as he does if it weren't for Descartes. I think he's soon after. Again, I'm not a Cartesian scholar. I've read the Meditations. I've read Discourse on Method. I think that's it. Meditation,
it's good.
It's very good. I think it's wrong, and I think part of its legacy is pernicious in terms of how it taught people to approach a debate like this. It's arguably wrong in the first premise in establishing this thinking self. But he's a giant, and he's a good writer, and clearly a good philosopher. I'm going to put him below Nietzsche, though. I'm going to put him at, because of my ambivalence about his legacy, I'll put him at 6.
Okay. Yeah, I totally wasn't sure about this. I figured he'd be in your lower half. He is one of those people where you say there is before Descartes and there is after Descartes.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. But I totally agree with you about the legacy being a little mixed in terms of methodology.
Yeah, the foundationalist methodology, and epistemology. But at the same time, like nobody laid out a view, even if I disagree with that paradigm, like in a more clear way than Descartes. So happy to have you at number 6.
Okay, for the third one, we are not traveling through space, but we're traveling through time to go to Jean-Paul Sartre.
Jean-Paul Sartre. This is tough because I don't really know his work that well. I've never read Being and Nothingness. I've read a few times and taught Existentialism is a Humanism. And I've read his novel, Nausea, and the play, No Exit.
That's why it was a tough one, because he's an artist in some way.
Yeah.
But I picked him because I thought he would at least represent a particular kind of like very blatant existentialism.
Yeah. He's my kind of... I don't want to say he's my least favorite because I just don't know any of them that well, but I get the sense that I like him less than some of the other... I'm going to put Sartre down at 9.
Okay.
And I may regret not putting him at 10. But I like existentialism as a humanism, although as we talked about, there's like this screaming problem with it that I feel like we're being gaslit, not just by him, but by like the debate about it. Because it doesn't make sense, that thing, when you're choosing for all of humanity. It seems directly opposed to the view. I don't know. Yeah, but he's it's an really interesting philosopher. And I totally buy that if I knew him better, I might be really ashamed of putting him this low.
Yeah, okay.
For all you Sartre heads out there.
All you nauseators. That would be good.
the nausea. when we go through our theories on the works
swear to
of
God, we're going to be
Jean-Paul Sartre.
64. We're going to be wondering what to do next. Okay, here's one. I don't remember ever talking to you about this one. So part of this is my curiosity. Thomas Hobbes.
God, barely know his stuff. Haven't read him, I don't think, since grad school.
And when you discuss, if you're teaching a class that's intro-y, do you just give a set thing about Hobbes and the Leviathan? Is it something that
it's fine. We haven't even taught it in Human Sit when I've been on the team anyway. I'm sure he's been taught. I feel like the one thing I will talk about, and I used to talk about, is a state of nature and that idea of this,
exactly.
Life is nasty, brutish, and short.
Yeah,
but other than that, I kind of plead ignorance. I read other works, especially of political philosophy, but sometimes also of free will, moral responsibility literature. He'll show up there. People portray him as a kind of compatibilist, but I don't necessarily think that's true. He also sounds often like a skeptic. But these are all just little snippets. It seems like he was insightful. He clearly also had a legacy. And my memory of his political philosophy, even though when I teach political philosophy, I don't assign him, is kind of interesting, but it's just not that debate. Him and Locke is just not one I care about. So I'll put him above Sartre just because of influence, kind of monumental political philosophy and influence, for better or for worse. But I feel like for better than some of those people that are also in it. So I'll put him at 8.
Okay, good. Yeah, that makes sense. I did not put Locke on this list, but my internal debate was to represent that kind of political philosophy.
Yeah.
And I knew that you would sort of probably automatically react negatively to Locke. And
Yes,
I thought
he would have been 10. I would have said 10 next. That wouldn't have been it. That's honestly why I put Sartre at 9, is because I was worried you would have Locke on the list. I dislike him as a philosopher, whereas Hobbes, I don't like. I'm kind of just don't know enough.
Right. Okay. Hobbes at 8. W.V.O. Quine. Some good ones are coming, just so you know.
Yeah. Not a huge favorite of mine, but someone who I feel like I agree with a lot of his ideas, and especially his ideas as transmitted by other people besides him. But I have read a good amount of Quine, and I've even read Word and Object at some point. And the whole web of belief thing, I think, is interesting, and probably comes close to capturing kind of how like the epistemology that I have. I like that he's very opposed to Descartes, and defending a more non-foundationalist approach to belief and justification and really everything. I don't like reading him though.
Right. We've talked about maybe doing his like Dogmas of Empiricism or something.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever read him. I knew that like at the very least that he would have been required at grad school probably for you.
Definitely, although not as much as you might think. And in fact, I think we read 2 dogmas in a couple classes, but I don't know about word and object. I think I came across that a little later. Yeah, it's funny, if I put him at 7 after Descartes, I feel bad because I agree with Quine more than Descartes. But I mean, I think Quine won't complain too much if he's not ahead of Descartes.
Right.
So I'll put him at 7.
Okay. David Hume.
Yeah, I figured he would be on here.
I'm very curious. I had like conflicting theories about what you're going to do in my head.
No, I mean, Hume is amazing. Like,
No, I know. My theory is about where
I'm going to put it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll put him at 2. So Hume, I think, he's monumental. Of the philosophers that I feel aligned with, like in ethics and epistemology, everything, metaphysics, like his kind of no-self views that he arrives at, sort of. He's a good writer. I think the treatise is a remarkable work, and I want to go back to it. And I think that would be a fun one for us to do. We've done pieces of it, I think, and and then the enquiries, and he also has these essays, like the ones that we did on taste and on the skeptic, and like he's brilliant. And I am putting him in number 2, holding number 1 for someone who may not come, and then that's when things will get. Yeah.
Okay, number 2.
Yeah.
That was probably going to be my guess. Yeah. Ludwig Wittgenstein.
He's a really interesting case because, like,
I know you're Wittgenstein curious, which is why I put
not just curious. Like, I think like he was completely right, the later Wittgenstein, about a lot of the problems with philosophy. Like, I sort of came to those problems not knowing his work at all. And then, having people tell me, you should read Wittgenstein and you should, and then there's this whole crew, this weird crew of Wittgensteinians, like modern day Wittgensteinians who are kind of on the margins and angry about it. And I met them because I did a meta-philosophy class. And we read some of the philosophical investigations. We should do Uncertainty at some point.
Yeah, I'm super down.
I think that he is another one like Quine, though, where reading him is sometimes less rewarding than reading about his views from like Wittgenstein scholars and like having them present them to you. And I do like reading the investigations. It's just hard at times to draw out of it the thing that I really like about his ideas, his critique. So I'll put him at 5. That seems like a good spot for Ludwig.
Okay, good.
And he's also like a genius, right? Like he's a complete genius. His early stuff is beyond me. But like of that group, Vienna Circle, which he was kind of in and kind of out, like he was clearly like the genius of that entire bunch of really, really smart people.
Did you ever read Wittgenstein's Poker?
Yeah.
The book?
Yeah, with him and Popper. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. 5. We have now slots 6, 7, and 8, and 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are taken, along with spots 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So you have 1, 4, and 10.
That seems good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what comes.
The one I think you're waiting for, Plato.
Yeah, number 1. Good.
Yeah.
No question for me. Like, talk about setting the template for the entire tradition of Western philosophy, as everyone says. Like they quote Alfred North Whitehead, all philosophy is a footnote to Plato. But, that's one of the things that I obviously respect. Nobody's close to having the influence that he had over the profession that I am a part of. And like he wrote in such an interesting way, like the dialogues where he's never a main character. So you don't know what his views are, even though some people want to attribute, the middle to late dialogues all to whatever Socrates says. That's what Plato believes. I'm firmly opposed to that. I think he's pretty clear that he doesn't want people to know what he thinks. The whole point of these dialogues is to simulate, give us the closest approximation to what Socrates was doing, which is actually debating people, talking with them, and trying to get to the bottom of what they actually know about something compared to what they think they know about something. And so many of these dialogues are super interesting just on an artistic level. Like the Symposium is a brilliant just work of art, and there's so much cool philosophy in there too. You know, that's where a version of the forms gets developed. This idea that philosophy is this ongoing active process, and it's giving birth into beauty, but it's not beauty itself. It's all just so fascinating and super interesting on every aspect of like what philosophers inquire about today. So yeah, like monumental, like Homer, who we're going to discuss in the next segment, and who some people think Plato hated, which is, I don't think, true at all. He's just the godfather of everything that would come after in the Western tradition.
It's incredible, completely independent of this idea. I think before we had it, I was watching a video essay on the hidden dialogues. I was just sitting there thinking, not only the more you learn about philosophy do you realize that it is all footnotes to Plato, but its influence on psychology. And then you have this completely other side of Plato's influence on religious thinking.
Yeah, and Christianity.
Which is crazy. Christianity, mysticism, like a bunch of mystic traditions come from Plato's ideas. It's like almost unbelievable if you tried to make it up in like a work of fiction that one person could have that much influence on the history of just intellectual traditions. Yeah.
There's another way of thinking about that part of it, which is that it's not that he definitely had the influence on like the Neoplatonists and, you know, and who are, I believe, almost entirely Christians and Christian mystics. Yeah. But I think like the views that are sketched out in Phaedo and in the Republic have a lot in common with Buddhist views too, and Hindu views. And so you could also imagine that it's a kind of Jungian thing where these things are going to bubble up no matter where you are, because Plato didn't have influence over those traditions for sure. And in any case, I'm very happy I left number one open because I wouldn't want him below anyone. And I used to be a little more ambivalent as a grad student because I didn't understand what he was doing, you know? And I think partly it's because he was often taught as just, these are really super interesting arguments. It's just annoying that he presents them as a dialogue and we have to sift through that. You know, once I realized that this actually unlocks like a whole new dimension of his like philosophy and his ideas, I was in the bag for him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. 2 slots left.
Yep.
Number 4 and number 10. And I feel like I'm lobbing these to you, Tamler.
Okay.
Because the next one is Gottlob Frege.
Number 10. Easy. My dad even just
I just
to
wanted
be
to hear you
loyal
talk
to
about your dad.
just to be loyal to my dad, I'm going to put him. My dad considered him like the number one enemy to like his antagonist, basically, throughout his whole life. I can't say I've read a single word that he's written.
No, that's also your loyalty.
Yeah,
you know?
That's my loyalty too. Yeah, I'm not like I love my dad, and if he caught me being a Frege scholar, it's not like he was psyched that I was going into free will and ethics. But at least if I had been forget it.
I almost put Bertrand Russell on here.
That would have been harder for me.
Yeah. I figured I would go full hate of that. And I've forced your hand with the last one, which automatically will get slotted to number 4, which makes me a little happy because it's higher than it maybe would have been when we started this podcast. Immanuel Kant.
Yeah, you know. Like, I'm getting more interested in his epistemology and his metaphysics. I don't think I would have put him at 4, but I actually don't mind him at 4 in this group. Like, there's nobody obvious I would want to put ahead of him. Maybe Wittgenstein and Quine, maybe. But, and he's a terrible writer, just a turgid, kind of brutal.
Not in the original beautiful German.
But, you know, the stuff of the categories and, like, all that stuff is super interesting. Seems right in a lot of aspects to me. So actually totally happy to have him at 4. I didn't even think you would put it. I did for some reason, like I just blanked. Like obviously you were going to put Kant in there.
All right, so we have our list. At number 1, you have Plato. At number 2, you have David Hume. At number 3, Friedrich Nietzsche. At number 4, you have Immanuel Kant. At number 5, you have Ludwig Wittgenstein. At number 6, René Descartes. Number 7, W.V.O. Quine. Number 8, Thomas Hobbes. Number 9, Jean-Paul Sartre. And number 10, Gottlob Frege. I should have practiced pronouncing these fucking names.
And to be clear about Frege, he's only 10 because there's not because he would be he would be at the bottom of any list. I'm looking at this. This might just be my list of these 10 anyway. I don't know what I would change except maybe, and I'd have to think about it. Quine and Wittgenstein over Kant, but they're not much fun to read either. Although I like the investigations, but so I'm pretty happy, and I think my top 3 is for sure the top 3 I would have. So
and you'd keep Descartes at 6.
I think so, just because of his pernicious influence.
Right.
But he was obviously just a master.
Right. I was pretty sure you'd pick Plato 1 and Hume 2, but there was a little part of me that was like, I guess depending on the order I presented or what you believed about it, you might put Hume as 1.
Yeah. I just did the thing that you did to keep a spot open for Nas.
Yeah.
Right. I kept one open in case Plato came
that
on.
was good.
Yeah.
My honorable mentions that didn't make this list would have been Kierkegaard, but I don't know. I had trouble picking the existentialists. Maybe it would have been Camus or Kierkegaard.
Yeah, Camus would have been high for me. He might have been 4. Kierkegaard, I need to know a little better, but I really like what I've read.
All right. That's the list. You're committed for eternity now.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Number 4.
All right, we'll be right back to talk about the Odyssey.
Yo, I'm in that CL smooth face, the Pete Rock. Reminiscing over pots I was whipping. Acne aping, drive-bys out the Porsche Cayman. St. Laurent fiend saying that your work tainted. And my shit the bomb digging. Fendi strap on the SK, who can F with me? All gator strap back, relax, Supreme hoodie. Couple niggas with me, got the Mac. Facts, SB Dunk, Dior gloves with the pump out. I want my money now or your brains get blown the fuck out. Ferry got with waterproof suit for a rainy day. Egg beat juice on big fly since 88. Big face Reagan mopping in my cloak wallows. Allah, please let me see tomorrow. Nigga, I'm the illest. Make way for the imminent. Intricate. High top Giuseppe's, I was kicking it. Killing shit. Crystal spilling it for niggas doing life. Y'all wanna be rappers, I do it cause I'm nice. Bagging radiota with the soda. Fiends on my living hills, drooling on a rover. Big L with half a man.
Welcome back to Very Bad Wizards. This is the time of the episode where we like to take a moment and thank all of our listeners for reaching out to us, getting in touch with us, emailing, the various social medias. We always enjoy we most of the time really enjoy the interaction, and we read all the emails. It's one of our favorite things about this podcast that we get to hear from so many people from so many different backgrounds and perspectives. If you would like to do that, you can email us at verybadwizards@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at Peas, at Tamler, or at verybadwizards. You can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook. You can join the subreddit. And give us a review on whatever podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and subscribe. That helps other people find out about this podcast who might like it. Oh, and follow me on Letterboxd. I've been posting reviews. I might even start doing some lists. If you would like to support us in more tangible ways, the number one way you can support us is by becoming one of our beloved Patreon patrons. And we try to reward our patrons for their generosity at various different tiers. At the $2 and up, you get all the volumes, 9 volumes of Dave's beats. $5 and up opens up a whole archive of bonus episodes, as well as ongoing series like this one, like the one on the Odyssey. So here's the deal there. After this episode, we're not going to be able to do the next Odyssey episode the next week because David is in Qatar right now. But after he gets back and the semester wraps up, we are going to keep them coming. This Odyssey book series is so fun to read, and we'll have so much to talk about. We're actually really looking forward to recording some bonus episodes, hopefully in time to make it so that when the Nolan film comes out, we'll be done with that. So read along with us in that series. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. There's also other series that you'll have access to, the emulators on every episode of Deadwood. We have the Reintegrators on Severance Season 2 with Paul Bloom, our Noir Summer series, a bunch of Twin Peaks stuff, just a lot of good stuff out there. $10 and up, you get to vote in the VBW Madness Topic Tournament and decide for one episode what we talk about. And you get access to our Brothers Karamazov series, which we're very proud of. And at the $20 and up level, you get to ask us a question every month, and we will answer them in increasingly long videos for you and audio for all of our bonus tier members. So thank you so much. It means so much to us. And now let's get to the first unnamed, as of now, episode on the Odyssey, the Emily Wilson translation. All right, let's dive into the Odyssey by Homer. Homer's Odyssey. This is as foundational a text as you could possibly imagine. You know, we were talking about how Plato sets the template for, so much Western philosophy to follow for the next 2,500 years. This and the Iliad set the template for so much storytelling. Like storytelling, just the breadth of storytelling that can trace its influences and roots to the Iliad and the Odyssey it's breathtaking. Like what he's able to do in the only two works that we have of his, quote unquote, because we don't know anything about this Homer. He's almost kind of a mythical figure himself. Yeah, man, like a lot of your favorite movies are because, and not just Nolan's next summer, but like, the end of Inglourious Bastards and the end of this, a lot of similarities. It's all over the place.
And the hero's journey, obviously.
Yeah, it is a prime example of the hero's journey. I read it once in high school, but then I got my job in 2008 at the University of Houston. And one thing that requires is every fall I co-teach with some other professors this great books course. And it includes either the Iliad or the Odyssey. And we just switch off every year. And so now I've read and taught, in my sections and always given at least one lecture on the Odyssey, like at least probably 7 or 8 times over the last 17 years, I guess going on 18 years. So like, there's really nothing quite like that for me. Like this big work that I just get to go back and reread every 2 years. And, I've changed my mind about so many things about it. Like it's one of the great privileges of my job. Like I'll always be grateful that I got a chance to do this. So I'm very excited to start this series with you also.
It's like you get to revisit an old friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, actually.
It's awesome with all new generations of students. Like the students I started talking about with them, they're all like in their 30s now, almost 40.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
What's your background or history, if any, with the Odyssey and the Iliad?
It is as opposite as you can imagine. I am literally reading this for the first time as we're going to be recording this. In fact, I was tempted because it's so good. I was tempted to keep reading this week.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to just read everything at least a couple of times. And like, this isn't literally true, but it is kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, there's a lot you don't know that's going to happen.
Right. Totally.
I'm sure there's like the sirens and like the Cyclops. Yeah. You probably know about that, but this throws a lot at you.
Yeah.
I hope listeners will read along with us as we do this series.
Absolutely should. Like my pitch is it's easy reading in the sense that it flows. Like this translation, which we'll talk about, is like written in plain English so that I think the story jumps out more at you, and it doesn't take a lot to read through a couple books at a time.
Which is how we're going to do it. Today we're going to just generally do an introduction to the whole work, and then we're going to talk about the first 2 books, and then our bonus episodes, which will come out most off weeks, will be 2 books at a time. So please join us on this journey. Join Dave. If you haven't read it in a long time or ever. Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 things to say that I want to get out of the way. One is that this episode, I want it to be Tamler heavy because, you know a lot about this and I don't, and I want the background. So for anybody who has zero idea like me, I'm hoping to just sit back for a bit and hear you talk about it.
For once, I'll talk a lot in a Very Bad Wizards episode, yeah.
And 2, I haven't told you this, but my pitch to you is that when we get to the last books, you come to Ithaca.
Wow, that's you just sprung that on me.
I did.
Absolutely, we should do that. No question. Yeah,
All right,
we should definitely do that. Yeah, I couldn't be more full circle. We'll have to end the podcast after that, but whatever.
We'll drink some poison wine together in the last recording. Set it to auto-publish on Libsyn.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a perfect way to go out. So you mentioned the translation, and there's a lot of questions about why we chose our translation already. And I know this can be a hot button issue on subreddits everywhere. So I've just prepared a brief statement for why I selected the Emily Wilson translation for this series on the Odyssey. I've taught the Odyssey for the last 17 years, once every 2 years in the University of Houston Honors College Great Books course. Over that period, we have used 3 translations multiple times each. Robert Fagles and Stanley Lombardo are the other 2 translators. Let me be clear. After a great deal of careful deliberation, I decided on the Emily Wilson translation, not because I think it's the best translation or the right one for this series, but because Emily Wilson is a woman. And Very Bad Wizards is, and always has been, and always will be a woke podcast. No, I actually really do think it's best for our purposes. I think it's the most accessible. It goes down easy. It's a great read. And I think Fagles might reach poetic heights that are higher than the heights you get with Emily Wilson's at times, but you have to put up with a lot of shit, and it's much longer. And that's probably my least favorite of the 3. I was tempted to go back to Lombardo.
It's older.
Yeah, I don't know which between those 2 are. They're both late 90s, early 2000s, Lombardo and Fagles. That was the one, because we haven't done that in a while. But when I got Lombardo and I compared him side by side with Wilson, I actually liked the Emily Wilson one better overall. And I also think it's just the best one to read, And one thing, a couple of interesting things about her translation. Number 1, she is the first woman to translate the Odyssey. And number 2, she put constraints on herself in doing so that the other translators did not. And the 2 constraints are, number 1, that she writes it in iambic pentameter. The ancient Greek is in this meter, which we have one professor who can kind of do it, he can give the meter in ancient Greek. But she chooses iambic pentameter, which is very familiar to our ears, whether we know it or not. That was the first constraint. And the second constraint is kind of a big deal. Unlike Fagles, which is literally 25% longer, I feel like, than the Emily Wilson. She said, however many lines were in each book, she was going to confine herself to that number of lines. So this is the exact length of the ancient Greek version of the Odyssey and the Iliad.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And, maybe some things got lost because of that choice, but with a lot of things, constraints are often a really good way to have your creativity come out in fruitful ways. So I really like it.
Yeah. Having nothing to compare it to, I really like it. And I read her translator's note, and I think that the points that she raises all kind of make sense. And one of the points that I like that she makes the most is that to Greek ears, this would have been plain spoken, like to ancient Greek ears. Like there is a temptation, because this is a classic piece of literature, to make it sound like the English from 100, 200 years ago, or King James English or whatever. And that is adding a layer of artifice to it that is not really either important or part of the of what the original experience would have been.
That's right. And I think, to be fair, Lombardo also takes that approach, and those are the two most, I think, readable translations. And I think Fago's should have more. You know, it's not that he doesn't write in King James English. He writes in our English. But the poetic flights of fancy are I bet, greater than what you find here. So, but I don't know, because I don't speak ancient Greek. So
I'll help you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I know you can pronounce the names in ancient Greek.
I've been practicing.
So stay tuned for that. All right. What did you think about the first two books?
I don't know what I was expecting, but I was surprised at how, first of all, like how fast-paced it is.
Yeah.
And how much of a page turner it was, where I'm like, okay, you dive right in, which is, I forget what's the Latin term for
in medias
diving right
res
in.
or something.
Yeah, that's something like that, which is great. It feels like a modern conceit. So you dive right into the action. I really liked it. Like I said, I'm holding back.
It feels modern is something you're going to be saying a lot as you go through it, I think. You know, just the idea that Odysseus, you know, he's the main character, obviously, of the Odyssey. That's the reason it's called the Odyssey. And he is not going to appear until book 5.
This is like a fucking Quentin Tarantino movie over here.
It's like, or it's like, you know, like there's so much art, and this is like a storytelling structure that a lot of people use, where you hear a lot about this person before you actually meet the person. Yeah, like Great Gatsby is a great example of this. And, you know, the Iliad literally comes in the middle of an argument between Agamemnon and Achilles. So it's just like, yeah, he got down to business in this. Let me give a little background quickly, since you said you would tolerate it. Yeah. Almost nothing is known about Homer, and very little is known about like when this poem was originally composed. It certainly had probably at least a couple hundred years of just being passed along by oral tradition. Some people say it was composed in the 8th century BC. Some people say it was much earlier. The Trojan War, which is the subject of the Iliad, a sliver of the Trojan War, and then the Odyssey takes place in the aftermath of it. That's set in, I think, the late Bronze Age, so maybe 11th or 12th century BC. Not that that necessarily actually happened. I don't think there's any agreement about whether some version of the Trojan War happened. But in any case, it's not written down, the Odyssey and the Iliad, till some people say 700 BC, some people say 600 BC. People just really don't know. People don't know anything about Homer. We know that the ancient, like, Greek poets and playwrights and philosophers would often talk about this Homer, but it's not clear what they knew about Homer. But they talked about him as a person, and he may well have been a person. But, you know, a little like the Bible, you just don't really know how all of this got put together. But with this, as opposed to the Bible, it's just like a masterpiece of storytelling. Like, it's structurally just brilliant, both of them. And so it's kind of amazing that it exists. Like, I'm always just in awe of the fact that it exists and how little we know about how it came to exist.
What's mind-blowing to me is the age that, you know, to be fair to the Bible, it never pretended to be a single narrative, but that we have a single narrative that was maybe written down in the 8th century BC, 700, is crazy. So, like, for Plato, this would have been like us reading some shit written in, Shakespeare.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's right. And it was like, in the same way that in England they live and breathe Shakespeare, like it's just baked into the culture. It was baked in to the ancient cultures, and in Athens, in the great age of theater there, the tragedies that they would put on were almost always part of this mythic background that Homer and Hesiod, who I actually don't know very much about, but yeah, they would use those same characters, those same themes. Let me just give, for readers who are approaching this the first time, some, like, just to the mythological background of it, like, just to set the context. The action of the Odyssey begins 20 years after Odysseus has left Ithaca to join the war against Troy. Agamemnon and Menelaus, who are brothers, asked him, they sailed to Ithaca to ask him, along with other Greek heroes like Ajax and Achilles and Nestor, who we'll meet.
You mean Aias and Achilles?
Yeah. We just did Aias the play, and it was actually like that's how they called him, Aias, because, for reasons I don't need to get into.
I told you I'm an expert.
Yeah.
I watched 2 YouTube videos.
Nice. You're the real expert, it turns out. That's the twist. So the 20 years before this starts, Odysseus left, joined Agamemnon and Menelaus along with these other heroes, Achilles and Aias. How do you say it? How do you do Achilles?
The CH is...
Achilles.
So get your Hebrew chops going.
Paris came to visit Menelaus on Sparta and made off with his beautiful wife, Helen. That was the cause of the Trojan Wars, to reclaim Helen. And that lasted for 10 years, the war, for various reasons. And like the first half of the 9th year is what the Iliad is about. That's what the pretext of the war, that Menelaus wants his wife back, but it wasn't just that he made off with Menelaus's wife. It was that this extreme violation of the Greek word is xenia, which refers to their codes and norms of hospitality that play just an absolutely enormous role in both texts in all sorts of ways. First of all, Zeus, the head god of the Olympians, is the god of Xenia. Like, he's in charge of upholding Xenia, the expectations of how hosts should treat guests, and also how guests should respond to hosts. Like, these are kind of sacred norms, much more ethically central than certainly in the United States, where we barely have hospitality codes and norms.
Totally.
But my point there is what Paris did in taking Helen wasn't just like, I'm cucking Menelaus. It's also this violation of this really central moral code of how guests and hosts should treat each other. And so that also made Zeus kind of almost reluctantly on the side of the Greeks in their battle against Troy. So that's the pretext for the war. Odysseus, when he left his infant son, Telemachus, who we meet very early on in the Odyssey. So he's now about 20 years old. And then the last thing I want to say before we dive in is that the story of Agamemnon and his return from the Trojan War, like, kind of hovers over this text and often comes in explicitly, as it already has in book 1. But I think a lot of people might not know this story. You'll learn about it later into the text. But when Agamemnon came back, and, he had some problems sailing back from Troy, but not anywhere near as bad as Menelaus, his brother, and certainly Odysseus. So he gets back. He has Cassandra, his captured slave, who is also his mistress. But little does he know that waiting for him in ambush is Aegisthus, who has been the lover of Clytemnestra, and they murdered him on the day he came back. And then also Agamemnon's son, Orestes, he killed Aegisthus in revenge for his father's death, and in some tellings, Clytemnestra. So that's kind of hovering over this situation, is what happened to Agamemnon. Now, I guess the last bit of background, Athena's favorite human has always been Odysseus. And I think there's reasons for that. Athena kind of feels like he's the human version of her. He's scheming. He loves to come up with complicated plots and con jobs, and he loves disguises. He loves to be in disguise. But their relationship is kind of interesting throughout. Athena is Zeus's daughter, who had no mother. She just sprung out of Zeus.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's dive in. Enough of me talking.
Yeah. Just for my sake, the gods are together at the beginning of the book, and Athena's going to Zeus and being like, hey, can we do something about Odysseus? That's like a normal thing? Like, they're taking...
Yes.
Are they just interfering selectively for their favorite humans, like you said?
So the gods, they definitely interfere in human affairs, but they also refrain from interfering. And there's no clear principle as to when they do or when they don't. There's also no clear principle about what happens, like how much credit or blame do you give to the humans if something was God influenced or God determined. That's definitely not a settled question in any of these texts. So there's the gods interfering often on behalf of their favorite humans. But then there's this other thing, fate, the fates. And this is a very mysterious thing in these works. Are you regretting asking me to talk?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, like, in this case, what Athena is kind of reminding Zeus is, like, on the one hand, she's saying, come on, you owe it to him. He's best sacrificer to you.
Yeah, that's what I like. They're like, oh, this guy like does a lot of animal sacrifices. Like, we got to like look out for him.
Yeah. But at the same time, there also is, like, there are prophecies out there of him returning in a certain way that we'll get to. And so I feel like she's also saying, like, we had to do this at some point. It doesn't seem like fate determines things to the day. It's like there's flexibility, but eventually certain things have to happen. But it's a really super interesting little conversation that they have there at the beginning, Zeus and Athena.
Yeah, and it almost starts out with Zeus being like, why are they always blaming us?
Yeah.
When so much of the human suffering is brought about by their own folly, their own poor decisions.
Yeah, and he uses Aegisthus as an example, Aegisthus who killed Agamemnon, and said, well, that was his fault. He knew it would doom him all. But you don't know if Zeus is just like sloughing off like responsibility.
Yeah.
You can tell he's already defensive about like the humans blaming the gods, which they do. This is very different. People are blaming the gods for stuff all the time, and it's never clear to them whether the gods are with them or against them. And, you know, if it's Job or something, then you see it.
Yeah.
But like, it's a much more ambivalent relationship between humans and gods.
You brought up Job, and it reminds me that, like, in the Near East traditions, there is this divine council that actually is what's happening in Job. Like, the story is really, like, even though Christians and Jews have suppressed it, the earliest versions of all of that were that there's just lots of gods, and they come to a divine council and they argue amongst themselves, and they say, look at Job, he's my favorite, or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Even Genesis, there's suggestions of multiple gods.
Yeah, they're like, let us make humans in our image.
Yeah.
That's just very clearly.
Yeah, Job actually reminds me of something you would come across in a Greek tragedy or something like that. It's also funny because one of the things that that I kind of took from it this time around reading it was Odysseus is her favorite human, but like he's been on Calypso's island for 7 years right now. And it seems like Athena kind of forgot about him too. Like Zeus definitely kind of forgot about him, and Athena kind of did too, because, you know, this is the key difference between gods and humans. You know, they have a lot of the same kind of envies and bitterness and jealousies and all of that and rivalries. But like the big difference is they're immortal. And so like time
what's 7 years? Yeah.
Just completely, it means something totally different. And life means something totally different. And that's definitely a big theme in these works. But Zeus says there's a lot of spoilers in the first book.
Yeah.
That's just how they didn't fear spoilers. They probably all knew the story. Poseidon rages unrelenting because Odysseus destroyed the eye of godlike Polyphemus, or how would you pronounce that?
I actually don't remember that
What
one.
about the tribe he belongs to?
Oh, the Cyclops.
The key. Yes.
Yeah, of course, the Cyclops.
So you see, like, Poseidon doesn't want him to get back home, but, you know, it's a little weird what Poseidon thinks can happen, but they're saying he can't fight against the will of all the gods. Poseidon is Zeus's brother and his kind of near equal, but not quite equal, which is something he's always grousing about. And then Athena says she's going to go to Ithaca to rouse the courage of his son, Telemachus, who we're about to meet. And she appears on Ithaca in the guise of someone named Mentes, who was a guest friend of Odysseus from way back in the day. And here's where you get the first indication of this Xenia relationship, this like someone who's a guest friend, you have a bond with them, and you hosted them, and now you are connected in a deep way. And not just you, but your families are connected. Your ancestors are connected because you established this guest friend relationship. So that's who she pretends to be. We meet Telemachus. who is
Poor guy.
Poor guy. Yeah. So what's your sense of Telemachus right now in these first two books?
Yeah, so he's in like quite a situation for Telemachus's mom, Penelope, the wife of Odysseus. Nobody knows what's happened to Odysseus, and people presume maybe that he's dead or maybe desire him to be dead because he's the king of Ithaca and they want to take over. So they're courting his mother. So he's basically at home for like years now.
Yeah.
Where like a bunch of dudes, you say 107, I didn't catch the number.
The number comes later,
suitors.
but that's how many there are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So they're all in his house, eating his food, drinking his wine, fucking his slave girls.
Yeah.
And competing basically to be the next husband of Penelope. And Penelope clearly is just barely putting up with it. But I love the Telemachus starting out because he's this 20-year-old, presumably, kid who has been putting up with this, and you're really getting a little mini coming of age story here. You're getting a mini the maturity of Telemachus kicks in with the help of Athena, and you get the feeling that Athena knows that he needs to get off of his ass and do something about it. But he's been a kid this whole time.
He needs to put on his big boy pants and he's kind of trapped. And I think a lot of Ithaca is trapped in this like static state where they're not developing. Things aren't flowing properly. Things aren't maturing properly. He's kind of in this liminal space between childhood and adulthood, but he has no father. He has no model. Right. He's, the paradigm of just this fatherless child that doesn't know how to handle what's going on.
Yeah, he's never been trained in combat, so it's not like he can even challenge these guys.
Yeah, and there's 107 of them. Like, they're clearly just they have the run of the house, and nobody on Ithaca is kind of doing anything to stop them. You said Penelope is barely putting up with it, which I think is right, but I also think it's an open question that we have to just keep an eye on of what power did she have? Like, I don't think it's clear. Now I think it's too late in terms of kicking them all out, but it's not clear that that was true when they first came. So they've been there for about 4 years. So Trojan War ends 10 years ago. Then, they're waiting for Odysseus to come home, and he never does. So then 6 years after that, the suitors start showing up. And then it's very weird. It's almost like the house is infested with them. And there's a lot of that kind of language of an infestation. And the house, Odysseus' house, is kind of like if a house is abandoned and it just starts getting overgrown. And so Ithaca's state right now, it's this kind of stagnancy that, it needs Odysseus to come back to set it right.
And you're really getting the sense that, obviously these guys are not welcome as far as Telemachus is concerned. They're burning through his riches and his inheritance. But you do get this idea that they are violating Xenia.
Yes.
Like hardcore, right? They are abusing the hospitality that he's sort of compelled to provide.
Yeah, they're abusing the hospitality. Even though they've kind of taken over the house, they're not hospitable to guests, which is why Telemachus is the one that has to go and welcome mentees. Otherwise, nobody would have. And there's some really interesting things that he says about his father in this. So what do you think of his feelings about being Odysseus' son at this point?
I mean, first, he says, I'm not even sure, first of all, that he's my father. Second of all, if he is, what luck I have to be born to the most unlucky man who's ever existed.
Yeah.
So I read some resentment in there, but the notion of luck was an interesting one too, given that we've already been thinking about who's in control of what.
Yeah, and I think that the questioning of his paternity is super interesting, I think. He says, my mother says I'm his son, but I can't be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you just trust your mother on that one? She probably knows what she's talking about. She did deliver you, But yeah, I guess.
It sounds like he's maybe this isn't my thing. Maybe if I'm not his son, then I wouldn't have to be so wrapped up in this bullshit.
Yeah, because he's not sure. Is this a burden to be his son? And he's not prepared because nobody has been there to model what a man and a leader, and especially a prince, how he should conduct himself, which is why the suitors treat him just like a little annoying little cousin or something like that they all just make fun of.
If only he had a mentor.
Yeah. I think that's pretty interesting, the way he talks about him. And we'll see over the next two books. The first 4 books are often called the Telemachy because they're really about, as you say, his coming of age story. But that's another thing to keep an eye on is his complicated feelings about Odysseus, the potential of Odysseus returning, and then what that means for him.
You know what I like is the minute that Athena arrives, in her guise as mentees, it's like her job is to embiggen his spirit. Mm-hmm. And you can already tell a change just in the first few pages when she's like, no, Odysseus was great. And if you are his son, you should believe that he's alive and you should embrace it. And you can already see him, the first time it's clear to me that, now he's actually becoming the man of the house is when all the suitors are drinking and doing all the shit that they're doing. And there's a poet that's telling the tale of the Trojan
singing,
War.
A bard.
Singing. Yeah. And the mom comes down and she's like, stop it. This always makes me cry, this one.
I will not have you bad nothing Penelope on this podcast. I love Penelope.
Jeez. Telemachus says, no, mom, nope, let him sing. That's the shit that just happens. That's reality. That's what happened. And you can't blame the poets for what happened.
Yeah. And then he says, go in and do your work. Stick to the loom and distaff. Tell your slaves to do their chores as well. It is for men to talk, especially me. I am the master. I think that's a little try-hard on his part.
It's a little incelly.
More like he's just doesn't know how he's supposed to act. So he's going to be talk like this to his mother. But I don't think he can sell it yet.
No,
and I think it'll be interesting to compare it to later in the book, his interactions with Penelope. So he's very inconsistent, I would say, in these first 2 books. Sometimes he's tough and he knows what to say, whether it's Athena inspired or just him. But then other times he'll just break down and start crying like he does in the speech at the beginning of book 2. He just kind of gives up helpless and starts crying. So he's still got some work to do.
Yeah.
So Athena tells him, go find out about your father. Sail to Sparta, but first on the same island that Sparta is Nestor, which is where he's going to go first. They were in the war. They might have some news about him. So go see what you can find. And it's this trip, leaving Ithaca, that is going to be the crucial thing for him to actually come of age. And it's the next 2 books are fascinating just seeing how that happens. And of course, you don't have to think that it works fully either.
Right.
That we have to wait till the end.
Right. And so you can already see exactly what you're saying. He's not selling it well. And the suitors are like, oh, whoa, like the Sopranos. Whoa! Look at this little shit telling us what to do. Calm down, calm down.
Yeah, totally. They're making fun of him. One of the lead suitors, Antinous, and one of the worst ones, just a total murderous asshole. He's like, oh no, Telemachus is going to kill us. He will bring supporters from Pylos or from Sparta. They're just laughing on the floor. It reminded me of did you ever see A Fish Called Wanda? When he's like, Ken is coming to kill me. Kevin Kline making, that's how they treat him. They just can't take him seriously at this point.
Yeah. I made a note that that was pretty sarcastic for 800 BC. I guess this is the thing that you get when reading this shit. It's yeah, we've always just been sarcastic. Yeah. We've always been dicks.
Yeah, we've always just made fun of the little stupid little cousin. He is quite determined, they say.
Yeah. So when Athena leaves in her guise as mentees, she's it says she flies away like a bird. And that's when he's like, oh my God, that was a god. And I think this fills him with some faith that her words are true, that he should do this trip. And so he's gets this confidence. But she comes back, as mentor or whatever. Are her disguises trying to fool him? Even though at some point he realizes that he's in contact with a god?
Yeah, it's very weird, this whole thing, because first she comes as mentees and keeps the guys for the whole time, except right at the end where she just flies off, like you said. That seems like it would be such a big deal, and it is to him, but it's more it gives him a little confidence to know that was a god. But this is just their worldview. They don't live in a disenchanted world like we do. Yeah, when she comes back as mentor, I mean, I don't want to spoil it. There is a little question of whether he knows it's him or not. But what's very confusing is, so she starts out as mentees, then Mentor, the real mentor, gives a speech at the beginning of book 2, talking that I want to talk about. And then she becomes mentor, like later in the book and then on the journeys.
I like how you said they don't live in a disenchanted world. Like, I just immediately pictured their version of Richard Dawkins yelling at him, like, it wasn't her, it wasn't God.
Well, you have that, right? Like, so at the meeting, when Telemachus, or who is it? Somebody says that Odysseus is going to come back and kill them all.
Yeah, it's the old man who's prophesying.
That's right. It's the old man. And then the eagles come and just attack.
Yeah, sometimes eagles are just eagles, guy.
Yeah, and then Antinous, or Eurymachus, I think, is the one. He's like, sometimes an eagle is just an eagle, yeah. So they had their Richard Dawkins. Even he's not original. So do you want to talk about the meeting? So one thing that's kind of surprising is that this is the first one since Odysseus left, like this council.
It's a point of like just random thing that bothered me until I tried to look it up. The words that are being used here when he calls a council are, let's get all the Greeks together, which makes me think like being Greek is something, but it's not really.
Yeah.
These are like, how do you say it? Achaean?
Achaeans, yeah. They're all Achaeans broadly.
Right. And so it's not as if there was a thing called Greece. These are just like these people, there's some unity to this group of people called Achaeans.
Yes. In contrast to the Trojans.
But there's like the Hellenos people, like there's a broader Hellenistic umbrella that's not the Greeks as we.
Yes. Yeah. But one thing that's important, like background, is that there's no hierarchy among the Achaean kingdoms, right? Like Agamemnon was the commander of the Trojan War because he has the biggest army and he was doing it on behalf of his brother, but they're all kings. They can't tell other kings what to do. Once you signed up for the war, you kind of signed up to be under Agamemnon's command, but like that was your choice. You were volunteering for glory and spoils.
So they're all just city-states with their own kings.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And they make relationships as using these guest friend codes. Like that's how these alliances are created. And maybe say something about that. So one of the key aspects of that code is when a stranger comes, you offer them shelter, you offer them food, like a meal. And you're supposed to do that before even asking like who they are, what their name is, anything about that. Okay. And not everyone follows it, as we'll see, but like that's what you're supposed to do. And that's what Telemachus does. So he has it in him that he wants to like follow these codes in the way the suitors don't. He just doesn't totally know what to do. But that's a big part of it. And you'll see in the next 2 books like how it works when it's really observed properly. Okay. So, what did you think of this meeting? So, first of all, just the fact that they haven't had a council meeting on Ithaca in 20 years, and meanwhile, these suitors have just descended. There are some suitors from Ithaca, but most of them are from other places. And, they're not doing anything about it. It's really like when he abandoned them, they were completely just rudderless. They didn't have anything to, like, keep things moving.
And it's not even like a power vacuum in the sense that these people are trying to lead, really.
No, not at all. Yeah. Like most of the suitors just want to take Penelope back to their own islands or cities.
Maybe get the dowry from her dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who I don't think lives on Ithaca. So I thought that's kind of interesting. It really just shows the state of Ithaca, is mysteriously just lacks any kind of direction or orientation, anything to keep things moving, which is why I think there is this kind of sense of stagnancy in the same way like rats can take over an abandoned house. That's like the suitors, are taking over.
Right. So I like how he sends heralds to call this meeting, but no one's quite sure who's called it, but there's like this excitement, Oh, we got a meeting.
Exactly.
Like, somebody called a meeting. Like, who called the meeting?
It's like like they woke up or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they have the speaking stick, like they have some sort of Robert's rules for these meetings.
And being able to speak, right? That's such a big power. Like that's like a weapon in, this culture. And like you see people are really impressed at times when Telemachus speaks. Like, how did you have the ability to speak with such power? But then, again, it's sometimes he has it, other times he stops and starts crying. So
yeah. And this is like, he lays out like, well, look at what this has become. And I couldn't tell whether he would be perceived as whiny or as like assertive in his plea for justice, because he's like, what did my dad do to everybody here that you would be so unjust in your behavior?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, like, to see this performed, because I think you could perform it in a whiny way, which I think I might, like, if I were Christopher Nolan, I would want to at least try to see how that looks, because I think it fits, but you wouldn't have to, like, you could do subtler things. You could, make it like he's almost there, but not quite there.
They ruined my whole house.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
But at the end, I love that, because at times, like, he's really got everybody's attention. He just gets so despairing at the end. He said, if only you Ithacans would eat my stock yourselves. If you did that, I soon would get revenge. I would come through town and keep demanding. Like, this is an empty thing to say. He wouldn't do that until it all got given back. But now you make me so unhappy. This is pointless. And then that's where he bursts out crying.
He loses it at the end there, because I was reading it. It was kind of rousing.
Yeah. At first.
And then at the end, he just loses it. He's like, I'm going to kill all of you guys.
And you could tell, you could see the suitors just going, like, rubbing their eyes, like, no, you crying, sad.
Telemachus, you stuck-up, willful little boy. How dare you try to embarrass us and put the blame on us?
This is a really interesting speech, actually. It's
really good.
Yeah, it's one of the best, like, defenses of the suitors. This is Antinous, and he says, blame your mother, don't blame us. Yeah, he says it's the third year. Soon will be 4 years that she's cheated us out of what we want. She offers hope to all, sends signs to each, but all the while her mind moves somewhere else. And here's where we learn about her famous trick, where she was weaving this funeral shroud for Laertes, who is Odysseus' father. She says,
and still not dead.
Who's not dead, right? But she's like, if I'm going to marry one of you, I at least need to make him a shroud, and then I can try to figure out which one of you suitors I should marry. And so she would weave it during the day and then unweave it at night. And it worked for 3 years, but then one of the slave girls snitched on her.
Sold her out.
Yeah, which is, we'll meet the likely culprit later in the text. Yeah. But so, it's almost like, fair enough. Like, she's kind of keeping them around too, but stalling and stalling and stalling and stalling. And the weaving and the unweaving is such a great metaphor, I think, for like time is standing still here. Everyone's like in suspended animation, and it's almost like she's controlling that.
Yeah. I get what she must be feeling. Like, I'm maybe imputing, but like she's in a situation where she doesn't know what her fate's going to be. And she's probably holding on to some hope, like doesn't want to just give it up. I think you see this whenever somebody's relative or loved one disappears and they don't have a body. Yeah. You're just like, I don't want to say that they're dead. Like, at some point you have to agree, but what point is that?
Exactly.
And she doesn't want to send them all away and then lose the ability to ever have another husband, because that's probably not ideal.
Right. And so that's the one reason to think that she really has been, like, she didn't necessarily want them to all leave, because if Odysseus is dead, she might want another husband, because otherwise she's on Ithaca in this rudderless place where nothing's happening. But she wants to keep postponing making that decision. Yeah. That's certainly one way to read it. Yeah, so there's that. There's also what I think is interesting is he says to Telemachus, he says, we suitors will keep eating up your wealth and livelihood as long as she pursues this plan the god has put into her heart. For her it may be glory, but for you, pure loss. We will not go back to our farms or anywhere until she picks a husband. So how do you interpret that? For her it may be glory, but for you, pure loss.
I mean, I think they're thinking that she's being the manipulative one and like trying to get things to work out the way that she wants at the expense of him.
Yeah. But the glory part, like...
Oh, to her glory? Yeah, I don't know.
So I think it's such a famous trick, right? Like the weaving thing, you might not know anything about like the Odyssey, but you might know about Penelope and the weaving thing. So it's her like kleos, glory. That's her claim to fame. And I think what he's saying to Telemachus is poets, bards are going to be singing about this trick for 23,000 years, which they have. But like you are just fucked. Like nobody's going to be talking about you because you can't grow up. You can't do anything until she just picks one of us. Then it's almost like because Odysseus, he's in this superposition of alive or dead, like that's the thing that Telemachus is keeping him in this state of arrested development. And I like that Antinous says, that's just your moms. Yeah, talk to your moms. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, right. I also like that in the midst of blaming her for this situation, he's like, Athena blessed her with intelligence, great artistry and skill, a finer mind than anyone has ever had before, even the braided girls of ancient Greece.
Yeah.
There is this sort of like giving her props for the cunningness of her like plan, but he's like, but just know she's the one fucking you.
And that's a good example of saying that Athena did that. It doesn't mean doesn't get glory. She still gets glory, absolutely, even though, he's implying that Athena kind of put this trick into her head.
Yeah. And then I like that after he says this, Telemachus is just now breathing hard.
Yeah.
You're just like, he's like,
yeah.
He's just like been super pissed. Like, talk about my mom.
I mean, think of how much courage it took to speak in front of this assembly, given that he's had nothing. He's had no training. He's had no male role model. Like I think he's always on the verge of having a kind of panic attack.
Yeah.
And it totally captures that. But this actually speech that he gives is pretty good in response to that. Like, out of my house, stop eating all my food, devour each other's property, not mine. Or do you really think it's right to waste one person's means of life and go scot-free? May Zeus give recompense someday for this. You will die here and nobody will care. I like that last bit. And nobody will care. And it's actually here where the eagles come.
Yeah. So Zeus turns into eagles or sends eagles.
Yeah.
And starts like picking at the faces of the suitors. So here's where my question was, like, Zeus gets involved in this moment.
Yeah.
Is it because Telemachus was in real danger of getting fucked up right there?
I mean, that's open to interpretation. I don't read it that way. I almost read it as like something about Telemachus's assertiveness there in that particular speech, like just Zeus got wind of it and was like, hell yeah, and sent the eagles there to kind of punctuate what Telemachus had done because he had kind of earned it.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. But, Zeus's motivations are very unclear often. So, yeah. And, it could be that Eurymachus is right. Ithaca, ancient Greek, Richard Dawkins. When he says, oh man, be off, go. So then the prophecy comes, which is that Odysseus will come back and kill everybody.
Have we seen this guy? So old Halitherses, son of Master, who starts prophesying and he says, look, I know prophecy. And I said when he left that he would come back after 20 years.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, we don't have any way of like verifying whether that's true.
No. I'm saying, like, is it in like the Iliad or anything? Like that this old man gave this prophecy?
No.
Or is he just sort of like, no, I said it.
There's almost nothing in the Iliad that anticipates the Odyssey, actually, which I think kind of implies that it was written or composed after. Prophecies are another big thing. We're going to see a lot of prophecies throughout the text. And I like that they're often true, but it's clear that sometimes they're not because the characters don't always trust them. And so some of these people are charlatans. And there's even question of like whether that's even possible, So when Eurymachus, who's kind of 1A suitor, he says, go home and spout your portents to your children, or it'll be worse for them. But I can read these omens better than you can. Many birds go flying in sunlight, and not all are meaningful. So he's got a very deflationary account of omens.
Odysseus is dead. All you're doing is making this boy angry. Attributing ill intention, to the old man, saying like all you want is like for him to give you gifts.
Yeah. And then Mentor gives a speech, and Mentor is someone who I think Odysseus really trusted, and he gives this speech to the rest of the Ithacans as well as the suitors. But there's one part that I find super interesting, which is, well, first he says, I'm the friend he asks to guard his house. And he says, this changes everything. Should always be cruel, since the people whom he ruled as kindly as a father have forgotten their king Odysseus. I do not blame the suitors' overconfidence, rough ways, and violence in eating up his household. So he's saying, I don't blame the suitors here. Yeah. They risk their lives, supposing that the master will never come back home. But I do blame you others.
Boy, do they.
Sitting passive, never speaking against them, though you far outnumber them. What do you think he's saying there?
I mean, it's like he's condemning the like fucking passive nature of the people. Like, it's an indictment that would sting me if I were in the audience. Like, yeah, you all could outnumber these fuckers.
Kick them out.
You haven't done anything.
Get them the fuck out, and you haven't.
Like, it's just no respect for the thing that Odysseus made.
By all accounts, like a good king for the Ithacans too, and that's what he's saying. But I like when he says, "I don't blame the suitors." They're at least putting their lives on the line. Like, they know if Odysseus comes home, it might be curtains for them. So I can forgive them. They've committed. They've made their bet against justice and morality and observing codes in the hope that Odysseus won't come home or the gods. So at least they're putting their lives on the line, whereas you guys are just sitting in your fucking houses, not doing anything while, your king's house is just getting raided and infested by all these suitors. My question for Mentor is, well, what have you been doing these last 20 years?
He's an old man.
I know, but like, he was asked to guard his house. Like, we don't really know, like, if he tried to recruit other people or not.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe have a fucking council once every 20 years. And like, ask people what they're doing. Yeah. Don't wait for his 20-year-old son.
But they really just are leader. They have no leader. Like, nobody seems to know like how to deal with anything here. So then the suitors are like, they tell him to quiet down, old man.
And they double down with their overconfidence. So like, even if he does come back, like, he's going to die. So like, leave us alone.
Yeah.
What they're pushing for seems like even less about winning Penelope's hand in marriage and more about, like, you just get the sense that there's a bunch of dudes partying.
Yeah.
And they don't want to stop their partying lifestyle because obviously the king has a lot of shit and they want to go through it all. Like, they're going to burn through it all.
It's definitely like burn the house, whatever. One of us is going to be walking off with Penelope, or, maybe we'll all die. But in the meantime, let's keep dancing,
Yeah.
If that's all there is. Let's break out the booze, which they certainly do. Then Athena, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, Telemachus prays, like he goes out and he like summons Athena.
Yeah.
Who comes back as Mentor, which is just leading to my confusion. Like, does he know that this one?
It's certainly not clear now.
Yeah.
I think we'll get, if I remember right, we're going to get another question where this might come up in the next two books.
Yeah, and maybe my understanding is that Athena in the guise of Mentor is where we get the word mentor. It's when Athena is like counseling
I didn't
him.
even know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I just read that.
Yeah.
And so she gives him, she's like, look, your father was amazing. You will be amazing like him and not be like these other assholes who have no brains and no morality. I'm curious what the word morality was that got translated to morality.
Yeah. It's not morality in the like fussy way
imagine,
that
right.
like
you mean in the
content
objectively correct way.
Both like I think analytic philosophers and psychologists make more a big deal of that word than I think normal people. But it is a good question in the sense of, I think morality here is in the broadest possible sense, like the proper codes that are set down by, the gods and just their customs and expectations.
Yeah. So in the guise of Mentor, she says, like, I'll go through town, I'll find us a boat and I'll get some dudes. And you go home and get some rations.
One thing she says that's kind of interesting in this pep talk, she says, if your father's forcefulness runs through you, you're going to be brave and thoughtful. But then he says, your journey will succeed if you are his. If you're not his son by Penelope, I doubt you can achieve what you desire.
Yeah.
And she says it's rare for sons to be like fathers. Only a few are better, most are worse. So it's it's like a pep talk that a coach might give where it's like, or you might suck and you might be worthless, but I think you won't be. And then she says the part that you just quoted. So it's kind of interesting. Even she or Mentor, and from Telemachus' perspective, is saying, I don't know if you're Odysseus' son or not, you know? So she's kind of leaving that an open question.
Because I'm kind of stuck on my notions of what gods know and don't know, it seems as if, okay, well, she could know and tell him. Like, I don't think it matters, but like in my mind, I'm like, is she leaving it open because that's an important thing for him to work through? Or is she just like, well, I don't fucking know either, you know? Like,
Yeah, I wasn't there.
We'll see. Like,
I didn't see him, Odysseus fucking her. Like, I probably would have killed her if I had.
Right.
So that's a great question, and I think it's a kind of question that will be presenting to us over and over again, and I don't think there's a resolution. If you want to know my instinct on this particular question is she probably knows he's the son and wants him to find out for himself, since that's like a key question in his mind that requires resolution. But I like the idea, actually, that you raise, which is she doesn't know for sure because she wasn't there. They're not omniscient. And, she says, I think you will. Like, I think you're better than all of them. So
I think she's taking a risk here, too. She's like,
I'm backing Rocky.
I'm backing this guy. Yeah. I've sort of like made my appeal to Father Zeus. And so now her job is to kind of like get things going.
Yeah. That's right. On this end, which is kind of interesting, not on Odysseus's end right now, but on this end with Telemachus.
Right. You would think that this whole book is about Telemachus from these first couple of books.
That's what I mean. It's like hovering over these 4 books, but it's not in it.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's very cool.
Okay, so I really like this next part where when he goes back home, and he sees all the suitors, it's like he opens the door again and he sees all the partying and he's like, fuck, man, these guys. And Antinous?
I think maybe it's Antinous. I always call him Antinous for some reason, but it might be just Antinous. Yeah.
Okay.
Antinous. No, maybe it's Antinous. I'm going to stick with that.
Okay. He tempts Telemachus. He says, like, what are you doing all this for? Why don't you just stay here and party with us? Yeah. Like, just give in. And like, I like this moment because I like to think that this is a crucial moment of temptation for Telemachus. I like that. He's like, you know what? I don't really know. Mm-hmm. Like, even mentor / Athena wasn't like able to tell me whether I'm going to really succeed. And why not join these guys? And, you can imagine a fatherless child being raised by a group of suitors at this point and getting just like, fuck your mom. Like, let's just sit here and eat and drink and be merry. You can get us the good shit. As we'll see.
That's right. No, I think you're right. I love that. I don't know if I've ever thought of that, but I think this is a big moment for Telemachus because it might be tempting to just say, you know what? Fuck it. Like, clearly there's no justice, no morality. I'll probably Odysseus, my father, if he is my father, is dead at the bottom of the ocean somewhere and he'll never be found. And so maybe just break out the booze.
Yeah, he says, why not put all your troubles from your heart? Come and eat and drink with me just as before. So we sense that they might have partied before. The Greeks will fix it all for you.
Which I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but it says they'll select a ship and crew and soon you'll reach Pylos.
Oh, yeah. So it's almost like they want to get him right now. But I think like maybe your point that even strengthens what you're saying because it's like this is the temptation. Like if he did that, he wouldn't go. Like if he started drinking, he would just...
He might miss the ship.
He might just decide to join their rough ways. And I like that a lot. But he is savvy enough to, not fall for these kinds of advances.
Yeah, he's heeding the call. Like he's felt it. He says, I can't eat. I have no peace or joy when I'm with your selfish suitor. Now I've grown bigger. And I got advice from other people. I'm not stupid like everybody says.
I'm smart. It's not like people say.
Yeah. And this is where the sarcasm kicks in that you were talking about. Oh no, Telemachus is going to kill us.
He will bring supporters from Pylos or from Spartos. He is quite determined. Like, look at he is a big man. It is, that's very funny. And I too have had that reaction when you see sarcasm in these ancient works. It's like, oh man, there is just something so deep about that. Like we thought like the British invented sarcasm in like the 1800s or something, but like no.
Right. Oscar Wilde made it.
So is there anything else to say about these first 2 books?
I don't think so. Like the plans, they get the ship, Athena puts in the work. And so he gets the wine, not the best stuff, because they're saving that for Odysseus, which is a nice little moment. And Athena calls the favorable wind and they go out.
Yeah, I like also that Telemachus says, don't tell Penelope until she notices because she'll start crying. It would spoil her pretty skin. I don't know if that's actually like a cool thing to say or if he's actually just feeling like he wants her to look good, or if it's kind of sarcastic, if it's a little biting, like she clearly just has to look so pretty for all these suitors, so we wouldn't want her crying. I don't know what, but it sounds kind of like, I don't know, assertive in some way, but I'm not sure how.
Yeah. But you do definitely get the sense that he's like starting to make decisions for himself.
Yeah. And so in the next two books, he's going to meet Nestor and Menelaus and Helen, the legendary beauty Helen, which I can't wait to talk about a couple of those scenes. And if you would like to hear this, dear listener, our next series of episodes, please become one of our beloved Patreon supporters, where there's just a lot of bonus material available for you.
Yeah, read along with us, comment, and it's going to be fun.
People are calling it the best deal in America and possibly the world. That's just what people are saying, but yeah.
Yeah, I believe it.
All right. I'm very excited too. I'm glad. This was your idea to do it, and it was a great one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Join us next time on Very Bad Wizards.
The Clayton boss has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.